What would I do if I started my business over from scratch? This is something I sometimes even dream about. I think it would be so much fun to start over again without as many expectations as, I have right now, because sometimes when you've already done a lot of sales and when you have a lot of experience, it feels like you can only lose and not win, which is a little bit of a mindset thing. Okay, but sometimes it feels like when I started with my online business, this was before TikTok, before a bunch of tutorials. I didn't even know how to edit videos when I started out, so I had to do everything in one take. Granted, I still don't love editing, so I still try to do a lot of things in one take, which I'm doing right now, and I just continue to speak to myself. But if I had to start over from scratch, in today's day and age, I think it would be such a blessing to have AI at my disposal if you know how to use it. And if I look back, I could be able to do it faster than when I started out, but I would still follow a lot of the same steps, although I would kind of supercharge them. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through if I would start my service-based business all over right now, online, from scratch, having no audience whatsoever. What would the exact steps be that I would take in order to, build 100K and then $1 million business a year? So,
hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, a show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday.
Let's dive in. The first thing I would do is I would get really clear on which pain and problem I would be solving and which symptoms my audience is experiencing from that. Now, for most people, let's face it, this kind of like our ideal customer avatar, which is the ICA, which is a really fancy word for your ideal client, is something we overthink. And if we are being really honest, we are usually our own ideal customer avatar. So I think we often overthink this because there's a lot of rules online about, your ideal customer, and write it all down, and what hair color does she have, and how many kids does she have. And although you could get some inspiration out of those exercises, I think we often tend to overcomplicate because we don't want to do the actual really difficult exercises. The difficult exercise being, hey, your ideal customer, or you in the past, what was keeping her up at night? What was she worried about? What was she feeling? And, for me, for example, I started out as a fitness coach. It was that at the time, my ideal customer avatar, she didn't fit her clothes anymore. She didn't feel strong. She wasn't fit. She didn't enjoy sports or working out, which were all things that I had felt at the time. So this is kind of where we start, is really understanding which pain point your ideal customer has and what your solution is for that. And then the big problem, the mistake a lot of people make, is that they try to give too many solutions all at once. But the best product that you could start offering might actually be a single solution to a single problem. So let's say, for example, for me, this could be people want to start making money online, and I can make a full program and a full course about how to start your business and build your email list and launch and brainstorm content and. Spoiler alert, I did that. And that worked in 2020. But in today's day and age, with so much noise out there, it will work a lot better to just focus on one problem, one pain point. So I could focus on content being a solution for, visibility and doing it in an organic way. Or someone could focus on ads as a solution to visibility and not organic. But we're choosing one problem, pain point, all of that. And then we're going to tap into one single solution. So, okay, you have nothing. You have no audience. You have no product. You have no business. What do you have? Well, I think most of us, we have a smartphone and we have a laptop. And on our smartphone, we have a fairly good microphone. I'm currently using a separate microphone to record this podcast, but you can get started fairly easily just by using your smartphone. So what I would start doing is I would look at my personal accounts. So for example, my personal Instagram account, I would look at my personal Facebook account. I would even have a look at, my contacts list, being emails, being contacts on your phone. A lot of people always tell me, but Amy, I don't have an audience yet. And then I'm like, well, you do have an audience. This is the people in your contact list on your phone. is actually an audience. So I would start by looking at what do I have, and I would start using my personal account, for example, on Instagram to start boosting my new account. So I would maybe set up a new account or just start growing from the accounts I already have, just with my own name. You don't need a fancy logo to get started. You don't need a fancy name to get started. You can just simply get started with your own name. And on my personal account, I would start sharing information about the things I find interesting, topics related to that problem, pain point, solution, symptoms my ideal customer has. And then I believe the cheapest way to start building up your own expertise, one is you share resources, even from other people. That's okay. Just share articles, videos, things you think are interesting. Then you start sharing your own tips. For example, what do you use in your home? Which gadgets do you have that have to do with a specific pain point, la-di-da. And then you start playing a bigger game. And for me, that would mean I would pick a set time frame every week. For example, Monday, 9 a.m. And I would start going live about one symptom or pain point my ideal customer has. And then just like talk about that. So I would go live at the same time every week. And then from that Instagram live, for example, in my case, I would make a podcast, which like making podcasts is really, really cheap. You can make a podcast for like a couple of dollars a month. I use Buzzsprout for podcasts and it barely costs anything. It's amazing. You can literally just record something on your phone, turn that into a podcast, publish it, and you're going to be amazed at what a cheap way that actually is to build a lot of trust with your audience. Because compare that to text-based marketing. If people listen to your podcast, they're usually listening to your voice for like 10, 20, 30 minutes. That's probably more time that they're spending on listening to you compared to listening to, for example, their best friend. Like if they're not on the phone with their best friend half an hour every week, they're now officially listening to you more than they are listening to their best friend. So I would go live at a set date every week, both to teach my audience I'm doing that, as well as to teach myself. And that would be my form of long form content. I would turn that into a podcast episode, for example, through a platform like Buzzsprout. And then I would grab that piece of content and turn that into about 10 different pieces of content. So I would turn that into a newsletter. I would turn that into a blog post. I would turn that into a couple of carousels on Instagram. I would turn that into a couple of reels. If you're feeling up to it, you can repurpose the video from your life into a couple of reels, kind of like how I'm recording my podcast right now. I'm filming myself as I'm recording it, and then I can cut a couple of pieces of content out of this video and then use those reels to promote my actual podcast episode. And then I would make sure that all of those pieces of content, the live, the podcast, the newsletter, all of that is actually leading to a lead magnet. And that lead magnet would be my core lead magnet that I'm assuming will be the thing my audience is interested in. So for example, for me, something I've noticed that my audience loves is, learning how to repurpose a video into 10 pieces of content, which is what I was just talking about. And that's my Content Buddy tutorial. I've created a little tutorial and a mind map and a Google Doc, which is like, it's a 10-minute video explaining how you can turn one video or one podcast episode or one transcript even into 10 different pieces of content. And I've noticed that every time I talk about this, so many people want to download this. And it's because content and AI are currently things that my audience really loves. Why? Because they all have a problem of not being visible enough. And it's because they don't have the time or the know-how or the discipline to do that. And AI can help them make that a lot easier. So maybe you're currently listening to this podcast and you're like, holy shit, I want to know how to turn one piece of content into 10 different pieces of content. Then you can just go ahead and grab my Content Buddy tutorial and I'll give you my prompts as well that you can just basically insert into ChatGPT and it will push out 10 different pieces of content and you can adjust it. You can even turn it into 20 pieces of content if you want to. So back to what we were doing. I would start going live at a set time frame every week. I would turn that live into a podcast episode. I would turn that podcast episode into a newsletter and a bunch of other pieces of content. And I would make sure all of it leads to my email list where I would capture people's email addresses. And then the next week when I'm going live again, obviously, I'll be sending out a newsletter about that podcast topic and sending it out to everyone who has downloaded my lead magnet. Now, from those lives and from those, newsletters, pieces of content, I would start getting a little bit of a better feeling of what are people really interested in. If I had a little bit more time, I would probably test out a couple of different topics, different angles. For me, it would be, are people interested in mindset? Are they interested in content? Are they interested in online business? Like, what is the thing that people are most interested in? And I would start getting a feel for what my ideal customer wants from me. And this is what I would do if I had more time. If I didn't have a lot of time and I had to start making money right away, obviously I would start selling faster. And then I would use the framework I teach my clients actually to start priming a product that I'm going to be launching. And I would never launch a product I've already made, again, because you don't really know yet when you don't have a big audience, like if people actually want to buy from you. So what I would do is I would start by kind of polling my audience. This could all just be on my personal account, by the way. If you want to start building a separate account, then you could do collab posts. But I would just start building on your own account. You can always start something later on when you've actually made money. So I would start polling them like, hey, which of these symptoms do you experience? What would you like to see more content about? I would look at the stats, which podcast episodes are performing best. For me, for example, I see that my best performing content is often mindset content and content. So I know that when I'm making a podcast episode, it's good when it's about content or mindset, it's going to perform really well. And then I would look at all of that and I would start talking about an idea I have for a course or a program or whatnot. And I would really include my audience into what they want, what they're struggling with. I would ask for as much feedback as possible, maybe even go live an extra time a week where I talk them through my idea, and then I would include them in that. And I'd start talking about a waitlist, like, hey, if you're actually interested in this, register for my waitlist, because then you'll be the first to be invited to that product, and you'll get a nice discount and a bonus because you're one of the first people. And then when the waitlist is big enough, I would launch the product, add a pre-order discount, and then I would promise them the discount in exchange for a little waiting time. So I would always sell first and then actually make the product later on. And this is basically the framework that I've used to get over 7 million in sales. The only time I have made a product before I've launched it, it was a flop. So from that point onwards, I was like, I spent so much time on this ebook. Almost no one bought it. If this is how online business works, I don't want it. But then I realized that there were a lot of online business gurus who knew what they were doing, and I didn't actually know what I was doing. So I started learning from them. And that's when I realized, like, oh, you have to start promoting your product and promoting your brand before you've actually even made the product. Because if you start creating your product and, putting a lot of time and money into that before you've marketed it, you don't actually know if people are interested in a product. So that's why I'm such a big fan of pre-orders, and why I've continued to work with pre-orders every single time I've created a new product. So I think what we want to remember here is that, one, we already have an audience on our personal profile, on our phone contact list, on our Facebook account. Then we need to just talk to everyone about what we're doing. We want everyone to know what we're up to, and we want to start building trust by showing up at the same time every single week. Trust, for them to trust in us, but also for ourselves to trust in ourselves, because often we think it's for the algorithm that we need to post consistently and that we need to show up consistently. And although that is important, it's also really for us, because when we say we're going to do something and then we actually do it, that actually builds a lot of confidence, and that's going to help us grow our business. So that's kind of the way I would go about it. Now, I'm thinking you are probably wondering how you can get started doing this if you only have, let's say, 2 hours a week, because you might still be, working in your offline business. Maybe you even still have a job and you want to start building your side hustle, and you don't really know how to start repurposing this content or how to start that online business and which systems you need. So I have 2 gifts for you. My first gift is that tutorial and that Google Doc prompt that I was talking about. I'll send it over to you. I've made it in English as well as in Dutch. All you have to do is send me the word buddy, like buddy, Buddy, and just send me that on Instagram on FastForwardAmy or on my Dutch account, and I'll send you the tutorial plus the Google Doc prompt and everything you need to turn one piece of core content into 10 pieces of content. And another thing that could really help you is I've made a checklist of all of the things you need to start your own successful online business. It's my online business checklist, and it can help you set up your online business, start making your first 1,000 a month, even grow it to 10K a month. And if you want the checklist, I'll include it in the link of the description of this episode. And I think the trigger word for it on ManyChat is OB checklist. So OB checklist, all one word. Send me that and I'll send over the online business checklist, and then you can get started. Okay, good luck. I was a little bit stressed recording this episode because I'm creating a video and I haven't been recording video podcasts in a while, so I hope it was okay. And if you liked it, let me know. And don't forget to go and download the Content Buddy tutorial and the prompt. Bye. Talk to you next week.